Iran just crowned a new supreme leader. He hasn't said a single word publicly, no speech, no televised address, no photograph. And that silence is the message. Because while Mojtaba Khamenei hides in an undisclosed bunker somewhere beneath Tehran, every institution in Iran is speaking for him. And what they're saying should alarm everyone watching. The IRGC, Iran's most powerful military force, pledged complete obedience within hours. Iran's foreign minister told NBC there will be no ceasefire. A senior advisor to the Supreme Leader's office told CNN directly, "I don't see any room for diplomacy anymore. We will keep fighting to the end of the game." Meanwhile, President Trump told Republicans at his golf club in Florida that this war is a little excursion. He called the new Supreme Leader a lightweight. He said the war is very complete. Pretty much. His own defense secretary said the exact opposite. Pete Hegseth stood at the Pentagon podium and announced that today will be the most intense day of strikes inside Iran yet. The Pentagon's official social media account posted 3 words. The same day, Trump said the war was almost over. Those 3 words were, "We have only just begun to fight." This war is now in its 11th day. 8 American soldiers are dead. 140 are wounded. Oil has breached $100 a barrel. And the two sides aren't just disagreeing about terms, they're disagreeing about reality. Let me walk you through exactly what happened in the last 72 hours. Because the gap between what Washington is saying and what Tehran is doing has never been wider. On March 8, 2026, the Assembly of Experts, an 88-member body of senior clerics, formally selected Mojtaba Khamenei as Iran's 3rd supreme leader. He received roughly 85% of the vote. Here's what you need to understand about this man. Mojtaba is the 2nd son of the supreme leader who was killed in the opening hours of this war. His father, his mother, his wife, and his sister were all killed or wounded in the February 28th strikes. U.S. diplomatic cables leaked through WikiLeaks years ago described him as the power behind the robes. He took control of Iran's Basij paramilitary militia during the 2009 Green Movement, when millions of Iranians took to the streets. Protesters back then chanted, "Wish you death, Mojtaba," so you would never be the next leader. He is widely described by analysts as more hardline than his father. He is closely aligned with the IRGC and associated with fundamentalist and modest views. An Al Jazeera analyst summarized it bluntly, "We are expecting a confrontational leader. We are not expecting any moderation." A Bloomberg investigation found he directs an overseas real estate network, including luxury properties in London, a villa in Dubai, and hotels in Frankfurt and Mallorca. In January 2026, Israel's Channel 14 reported $1.5 billion in cryptocurrency was moved to Dubai with his involvement. The U.S. Treasury sanctioned him back in 2019 for acting in place of the supreme leader without ever being elected. And here's the detail that makes this situation genuinely unprecedented. Nobody has seen him. Iran International reported on March 10th there has been no speech, no televised address, and very few photos or videos of the new leader. Iranian state television confirmed he was wounded in the opening strikes. They used the term Janbaz of Ramadan, which translates roughly to war hero. No details were provided. The only recording that exists of him is an old video canceling his religious classes, and that recording has become an internet joke among Iranians. His complete absence has fueled speculation that someone else may be exercising real authority. AI-generated renderings and stylized illustrations have appeared online to fill the visual vacuum. Trump's response to the appointment was immediate. He told Axios on March 5th that they are wasting their time, that Khamenei's son is a lightweight, and that he has to be involved in the appointment. When asked by ABC News after the formal selection, he said he is going to have to get approval from us, and if he does not get approval from us, he is not going to last long. Asked by Fox News, Whether he would rule out killing the new supreme leader, Trump did not say no. Israel's defense minister called any successor a legitimate target for assassination. Senator Lindsey Graham predicted the new leader would meet the same fate as his father. But here's the part that should concern you more than who Iran's leader is. It is what every official around him is saying, with remarkable consistency across every major news outlet. There will be no ceasefire. There will be no negotiation. And diplomacy is dead. Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, told Meet the Press on NBC on March 8th that we need to continue fighting for the sake of our people. He said they are killing our people. They are killing girl students. They are attacking hospitals. And now you want to ask for a ceasefire again? This does not work like this. On NBC Nightly News 3 days earlier, he was asked about a potential U.S. ground invasion. His answer was no. We are waiting for them. He called it a big disaster for them. On PBS NewsHour on March 9th, Araghchi said negotiations would not be on the table again. He said, "We have a very bitter experience of talking with Americans." He confirmed Iran would continue attacking Israel with our missiles, as long as needed and as long as it takes. But the most chilling interview came from Kamal Karazi. He's the foreign policy advisor to the Supreme Leader's office. He spoke exclusively to CNN's Frederick Pleitgen from inside Tehran on March 9th. His words were unambiguous. He said he did not see any room for diplomacy anymore. He accused Donald Trump of deceiving others and not keeping his promises. He said Iran experienced this in 2 rounds of negotiations, and while Iran was engaged in negotiations, they struck Iran. When asked if Iran is ready for a long war, Karazi said it is an existential threat to the Islamic Republic, and therefore we have to stay with full might as we are doing now. He confirmed Iran can continue with the war for a long time. Parliament Speaker Ghalibaf echoed the same position. He said, "We are certainly not seeking a ceasefire." The IRGC spokesperson declared Iran will determine when the war ends. Now here's where the story splits in two, because Washington is telling a completely different version of events. On March 9th, President Trump stood at his golf club in Doral, Florida, surrounded by Republican lawmakers, and he said, "We took a little excursion to the Middle East to get rid of some evil, and I think you'll see it's going to be a short-term excursion." He said the war would be finished pretty quickly. He told CBS News in a phone call, "I think the war is very complete, pretty much. They've shot everything they have to shoot. They have no navy, no communications, no air force. Their missiles are down to a scatter." Hours later, his own defense secretary stood at the Pentagon and said the opposite. Hegseth declared that today would be yet again our most intense day of strikes inside Iran. The most fighters, the most bombers, the most strikes. Intelligence more refined and better than ever. When asked which version was true, the war being almost over or just beginning, Trump said, "I think you could say both." The Hill put it directly. President Trump and the Pentagon are sending conflicting signals on how long the war in Iran will last. Here is what the actual military numbers show. General Dan Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, confirmed that U.S. forces have now struck more than 5,000 targets inside Iran. Ballistic missile launches from Iran have dropped 90% from day one. Drone launches have fallen 83%. More than 50 Iranian naval ships have been hit, but Iran is still firing. Saudi Arabia intercepted 2 drones over its eastern oil region on Tuesday. Kuwait shot down 6 drones. The UAE reported 9 drone strikes that killed 2 more people, bringing the UAE's total to 6 dead and 122 wounded since the war began. The war is not over. It is intensifying in some theaters while degrading in others, and nobody in a position of authority seems to agree on what happens next. The war has also opened a second front. Hezbollah began firing rockets and missiles into Israel on March 2nd, the first cross-border attack since the late 2024 ceasefire. A senior Hezbollah official said Israel wanted open war, so let it be an open war. Lebanon's health ministry reports 486 people killed and over 1,300 wounded since the fighting began. Over 500,000 people have been displaced. Israel launched a ground incursion into southern Lebanon with forces from the 91st Division. On March 7th, Israeli commandos conducted a helicopter raid into the Bekaa Valley. Prime Minister Netanyahu declared, "We are breaking their bones, and there's more to come." He said the war's aim is to enable the Iranian people to cast off the yoke of tyranny. Inside Iran, the human cost is mounting. Iranian authorities report more than 1,300 civilians killed, including over 200 children. At least 29 medical facilities have been damaged. The Shajara Tayyibeh Girls' School in Minab was struck on day 1, killing between 148 and 180 people, mostly schoolgirls aged 7 to 12. Investigations by the New York Times, CBC, and NPR concluded a U.S. munition was likely responsible. Trump blamed Iran. The State Department authorized $40 million in emergency evacuation funds. More than 40,000 Americans have returned to the U.S. since February 28th. Meanwhile, the economic fallout is accelerating. The Strait of Hormuz remains functionally closed. 20% of the world's crude oil normally flows through that 21-mile-wide choke point. Shipping traffic collapsed from over 150 vessel transits per day to near zero for Western-flagged ships. Around 200 tankers are stranded in the Gulf, according to Lloyd's List Intelligence. Oil crossed $100 a barrel for the first time since 2022. On what traders called Manic Monday, after Trump's comments about the war ending soon, Brent crashed 11% to close around $88 a barrel. But analysts warn this is volatility, not resolution. U.S. gas prices hit $3.54 per gallon nationally on March 10th, according to AAA, up over 17% in just 10 days. California is already above $5.20. Diesel has surged to $4.66. Qatar, which supplies roughly 20% of the world's LNG, halted production at its main facilities after Iranian drone strikes on Ras Laffan. The company declared force majeure on gas exports. CNBC reported it may take at least a month to fully restart. European natural gas futures spiked 63% in 1 week, the largest gain since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The G7 held emergency meetings on March 9th and 10th. They issued a joint statement. "We stand ready to take necessary measures, including to support global supply of energy such as stockpile release." The U.S. proposed releasing 300 to 400 million barrels from strategic reserves, but no immediate release has been triggered. Neil Atkinson, former head of oil at the International Energy Agency, told CNBC that unless something changes very soon, we are in a potentially game-changing and unprecedented energy crisis. So here's where we stand on day 11. Iran has a new supreme leader who has not spoken a word publicly, but every institution around him is sending the same message: no ceasefire, no diplomacy, no surrender. The IRGC has pledged total obedience. The foreign minister says they will fight as long as it takes. The senior foreign policy advisor says there is no room for diplomacy anymore. On the other side, the American president says the war is very complete. Pretty much. His defense secretary says it is just the beginning. The Pentagon is escalating strikes. Iran is still launching drones. There are only 2 scenarios right now. Scenario 1, Iran's weapons stockpile continues to deplete, and the 90% drop in ballistic missile launches suggests it already is. The U.S. reopens the Strait of Hormuz with naval escorts. Oil stabilizes. The war burns out within weeks. The question becomes whether Iran fractures internally or consolidates behind its wounded new leader. Scenario 2. Mojtaba Khamenei's silence is not weakness, it is strategy. Iran shifts to a prolonged war of attrition, cheap drones against billion-dollar defense systems, indefinitely. The strait stays closed. Oil climbs back above $120 a barrel. Gas hits $4 or $5 a gallon across America. A global recession begins, triggered not by financial collapse, but by the oldest weapon in geopolitical history, controlling who gets to move energy across the world's oceans. 8 American soldiers are dead. 140 are wounded. Oil has touched $100 a barrel. Gas is up 17% in 10 days. More than 1,300 Iranian civilians are dead, including school children. Iran's new supreme leader has not said a single public word. And that silence, from a man whose family was killed in the opening strikes of this war, whose military has pledged total obedience, whose advisors have declared diplomacy dead. That silence is the loudest message Tehran has sent yet.